Haru Kitamori stepped off the commuter train with his head bowed against the drizzle, one hand cushioning the bulge of the canvas duffel that held the prototype. The station, a steel-ribbed cathedral of fluorescent lights and tiny electronically chirping advertisements, spat thousands of umbrellas into the evening rush, genetic black domes bobbing like a tide of ink. Above them hovered the gray, indifferent sky of Megacity 27, whose permanent cloud layer had robbed countless newcomers of any sense of seasons, sun, or home. Haru's own home was white-walled, wind-carved Hokkaido, 300 kilometers north, where the air in spring smelled of thawed cedar bark and the sweet steam of his grandmother's mochi. Since starting his engineering apprenticeship at the Metropolitan Innovation Bureau, he had learned to live without those smells and learned, too, how the absence gnawed at people. In the dormitory elevator, he overheard junior accountants reciting ramen recipes from their fishing villages to keep from crying. On the rendering floor, he watched programmers close their eyes during lunch breaks, cupping disposable coffee lids, willing the bitter scent to transform into something kinder. Homesickness, he realized, was a secret second city beneath the visible, one and invisible grid of yearning, as vast and interwoven as Megacity 27's elevated walkways. People navigated it as unconsciously as they did the magnetic train network, always detouring around the ache without ever erasing it. So Haru decided to build a compass. Or, more accurately, an umbrella. He entered the street, opened a battered plaid canopy against the mist, and walked quickly toward the subterranean fabrication lab he rented by the hour. The duffel slapped against his hip. Inside lay Umbrella No. 6 lightweight carbon fiber ribs, a reservoir handle, and a diffuser ring hidden along the inner seam. When the user pressed the carved camphor wood slider, a microatomizer would send the faintest pulse of scent up the spokes. Toasted soybean flour, warm rice syrup, burnt sugar. In Haru's tests, the fragrance hovered halfway between candy and campfire, and its first inhale always made him 8 years old, kneeling beside his grandmother's irori hearth while sleet rattled the shutters. Umbrella No. 6, he hoped, would do the same for others. As he waited at a crosswalk, he caught sight of himself in a shopfront. 23, narrow-shouldered, eyes smudged with solder fume insomnia. His reflection mouthed an old Hokkaido proverb Grandma used when storms threatened harvests. Carry the sky, and the sky will carry you. He gave a private nod as though accepting an assignment, then hurried on. The fabrication lab hid beneath a karaoke parlor, its doorway framed by flickering neon fish. Inside, vacuum-formed walls glowed soft aquamarine, like the belly of a whale. Rows of rented benches held precision lathes whose pricing meters ticked by the minute. Most occupants tonight were hobbyist engraving drone parts or resin-casting jewelry for artisanal pop-ups. Haru signed in, stowed his duffel, and clipped a respirator mask around his jaw. He had 1 hour before closing. Umbrella No. 6 still needed 2 things, a fail-safe valve to prevent leaks and a story. The valve he machined first, tiny, anodized, gleaming like a raindrop. While the drill sang, Haru's mind wandered over the harder problem, how to convince strangers they wanted to hold memory in their hands. Metropolis residents distrusted nostalgia. The city prided itself on forward momentum. Its official slogan was, "Onward always." Billboards boasted quantum commute statistics, and skyscrapers sprouted lightning harvest turbines. Anything that smelled of regression, even fragrant umbrellas, risked ridicule or worse, regulatory suffocation. Innovation, to win grants or floor space, had to pledge allegiance to speed and utility. Yet Haru believed comfort was utility. A calm commuter boarded trains sooner, spent more, snapped fewer at spouses. The hypothesis shimmered just outside data language, begging for a pilot study. He needed test subjects. Better, he needed allies. He parted Umbrella No. 6's canopy, tweaked the diffuser pressure, and watched faint white vapor ghost away like breath in winter. The smell settled over him, clove-colored and warm. He closed his eyes. Behind them bloomed a memory of sitting in the snow-packed field outside the Kitamori farmhouse, building a fortress of ice bricks under a sky so crisp it rang. He opened his eyes before longing could sharpen into pain. 55 minutes gone. Satisfied, he sealed the prototype in its sheath and jogged upstairs. The first ally arrived by accident. Haru, running for the last train, collided with a woman in a yellow poncho on the footbridge above Nakamura Avenue. Their umbrellas tangled, hers snapped inside out. Apologies flew. She wore horn-rimmed glasses, carried a music conservatory case, and exuded the exhausted poise of someone who had spent the entire day perfecting a single impossible bar of cello. Seeing her ruined canopy, Haru impulsively offered, "Umbrella no. Sick. It's experimental," he said, "but waterproof, mostly." The woman arched an eyebrow. "And if it falls apart, then I'll owe you ramen." Haru kitamori. He extended a card laser-etched with the umbrella's logo, Childhood Weatherworks. She took it, trying not to smile. "Saya Mihara. I practiced 2 blocks south. Let's see if your invention holds till the corner." They walked. Streetlight halos glittered through drizzle. After 1 block, Saya murmured, "What is that smell?" She inhaled again, hesitating between suspicion and delight. "Roasted something. Burnt sugar? Wait, my aunt's street fair near Osaka sells taiyaki with— Yes, that's it. I'm 14 again, stuffing pockets with pastry to keep my fingers warm before second set." Her voice wobbled. "Umbrella, no. 6, kept dripping memory. Haru looked away, embarrassed by how intimate invention could be. "It's calibrated to common childhood treats from across the archipelago," he explained. "Rice syrup, kinoko flour, a hint of citrus peel. The sensor picks up ambient humidity and releases the blend gradually." Saya stopped under a pedestrian awning. "You built an umbrella that rewinds time," she said. "Do people know?" "No, not yet." "Then let's change that." They met the next Saturday in a 12-floor co-working bazaar called The Hatchery, where startups nested like birds in steel and glass trees. Saya laid out contacts, event promoters, conservatory faculty, a cousin who hosted an arts podcast with 30,000 listeners hungry for human interest novelties. Haru provided prototypes, 3 more umbrellas he'd assembled overnight, each tuned to profile variations. Umbrella no. 7 carried lemon tofu and pine smoke notes popular in Shikoku. No. 8 ripened with mango mochi for Okinawan migrants. No. 9 offered purely vanilla biscuits for the internationally uprooted. He worried the blends were crude, but Saya waved off anxiety. "Art grows where science blushes," she said. "Let them smell first. We'll refine later." Their first public test occurred outside Central Station at dusk. Volunteers received umbrellas in exchange for a short questionnaire. Within 12 minutes, commuters who'd planned to scurry anonymously were stopping midstream to breathe. A salaryman clutched nonate like a talisman, eyes bright. A grandmother traced the canopy seams and whispered, "My mother used to dry persimmons on our windowsill." She handed back the questionnaire, signed but damp with tears. From a distance, city security drones hovered, scanning for contraband. The umbrellas emitted nothing toxic, yet the drones' red record lights made Haru itch. They withdrew before dawn. Word traveled faster than official channels. The podcast aired a segment titled "Portable Past the Scent Umbrella Revolution." Social feeds filled with photos of translucent vapor curling beneath bright canopies. Orders flooded the website Haru had coded in 1 sleepless sprint. Suddenly, Childhood Weatherworks had waiting lists, investment inquiries, and, inevitably, regulatory questions. The city's Department of Public Atmosphere summoned Haru to present compliance data. He stood before a panel of chemists and urban psychologists, palms sweating. The lead inspector asked, "Why embed olfactory stimulants in urban storm gear? Citizens already endure ad bombardment in every sense modality. Why another?" Haru answered softly, "Because this one does not sell anything. Only gives back what was already theirs." He presented charts showing reduced blood pressure in trial participants, increased self-reported optimism, even decreased carbon footprint from people opting to walk in rain that smelled like home instead of hailing cabs. The panel nodded, took notes, requested further testing. Weeks stretched. Saya kept momentum alive with pop-up concerts beneath scent umbrellas, suspended like chandeliers, each note ringing through nostalgia-perfumed air. She played a cello melody her grandmother once hummed while mending nets by the inland sea. Attendees wept openly, donations paid fabrication fees. Haru hired 2 refugee machinists who tweaked the valve design so precisely leakage dropped to near zero. At night, when he and Saya closed the shop, they talked about the psychology of belonging, how memory could be engineered not as escapism, but as bridge work, connecting past and possible future selves. They debated whether a city that smelled like 1,000 villages could remain a single city, or whether it would fracture into overlapping personal geographies. They never quite kissed, they were always too tired or too covered in polymer shavings, but the warmth between them was itself a scent, unbottled, unmistakable. Regulatory clearance arrived with an unexpected caveat. The umbrellas were approved only for a 3-month pilot, confined to designated emotional wellness zones. Elsewhere, they remained restricted. The zones consisted of 6 rain-roofed plazas ringed by cameras. Users had to sign waivers. The department wanted metrics. Saya cursed bureaucracy, but Haru saw an opening. Metrics they could provide: scientific, irrefutable, transcendental. They staged launch night at Blossom Square, one of the approved sites. 20 volunteers, migrants from farm prefectures, international students, factory line veterans, gathered beneath the plaza's retractable glass pedals. Clouds above rumbled. Live stream drones circled. Haru distributed umbrellas. When the first raindrops struck polycarbonate roof, he signaled. 50 buttons slid. Diffuser rings hissed. An invisible wave rolled over the square. People inhaled, shoulders unclenched, faces tilted upward though they couldn't see the sky. One man laughed uncontrollably. A woman pressed both hands to her heart. Saya, stationed on the plaza stage, lifted her bow and played a single note that hung luminous, meeting the scent in midair. Later, biometric kiosks indicated stress markers plunging 40%. Local real-time mood index, the city tracked everything, showed a bright blip amid usual gray. Hashtags exploded, and that, of course, is when trouble arrived. On day 22 of the pilot, 2 umbrellas malfunctioned during a downpour in East Wellness Zone. Their reservoirs cracked, spilling concentrated fragrance oil. Passers-by slipped on the slick, and one commuter sprained an ankle. The city news feed ran headlines: olfactory gimmick hazard, safety board investigate. Photos of the spill looked ominous. Rainbow slick against concrete like petroleum. Overnight, order cancellations spiked. Investors retreated. Haru examined the damaged units. Stress fractures indicated tampering. Someone had cut away safety mesh with micro scissors, then resealed the seam to fail under pressure. Sabotage. But proving it would take more resources than he had. Saya urged him to go public. Tell them someone's afraid of what we're doing. Who? Competitors? Ad syndicates? Anyone who profits from loneliness, she said. Yet Haru hesitated. Without proof, claims of sabotage sounded like deflection. So he poured his energy into reinforcement redesign No. 12 series with flexible graphene liners. He offered replacement umbrellas free. The department, however, suspended the trial pending investigation. Orders dwindled to a trickle. The machinists he'd hired found other gigs. The fabrication lab raised rent. One evening, he arrived to discover their benches repossessed, prototypes stored in cardboard boxes labeled unauthorized material. He and Saya ate vending machine udon on the curb outside, steam curling in the damp spring night. Maybe the city was right, he muttered. Maybe people need to forget the past to survive here. Saya broke her chopsticks cleanly. My aunt used to say homesickness isn't an illness. It's proof you had something worth carrying forward. Without it, you drift. She touched his sleeve. We'll fix this. Music auditions taught me the moment right after you think you're finished is when you decide if you are. Her confidence steadied him, but solution remained elusive. That week, rain fell every day, relentless megacity weather. Commuters hurried beneath black umbrellas, bent like punctuation marks who'd lost their sentence. On Friday, Haru sat in an overfull tram, clutching one of the boxed prototypes, when he noticed a small boy across the aisle, crying silently, face buried in a school bag. No adult seemed to claim him. Haru offered a tissue. The boy shook his head. Finally, he whispered, I miss my mom. She's in hospital. It smells bad there. Haru's heart twisted. He opened the box, withdrew Umbrella No. 14, a compact model with strawberry and pan profile, and clicked the slider. A tiny puff escaped. The boy sniffed, startled. Bread? My mom used to buy it on Fridays, the child said. Haru nodded. Mine too. The boy inhaled deeper, eyes closing. The tears stopped. When the tram arrived at the hospital stop, he looked calmer. Can I keep this? Haru hesitated. Giving unsanctioned units could invite fines, but he pushed the umbrella into the boy's hands. Take it. Press the button when you feel scared. As doors closed, he saw the boy lift the canopy over his head. Though the corridor was indoors, scent haloing him like a guardian. That image followed Haru through the night. By dawn, he understood the next move. He hacked the city permit database. It wasn't less criminal than clever. The emotional wellness zones possessed loopholes. portable shelters within them, counted as temporary therapeutic enclosures. If childhood weatherworks could make every umbrella a portable shelter, distribution would be legal. Haru coded firmware that triggered a micro LED ring along the umbrella's rim, projecting a faint, shimmering veil of light around the user, an enclosure exactly 1 meter wide. The department's regulations stated that therapeutic enclosures must be visibly delineated, but said nothing about a duration limit for mobility. Legal scholarship in 5 clicks confirmed. Effectually, each umbrella would tow its own zone. He named the patch Star Carry. Of course, regulators would close the loophole eventually. Their only chance was to deploy hundreds before bureaucracy woke. Haru and Saya emptied savings, bought surplus components, and assembled through 48 sleepless hours in an abandoned greenhouse on the city outskirts. Friends arrived, the salaryman, the grandmother, the podcast host, the boy's mother, now recovered. They soldered diffusers and wove canopies, guided by Saya's metronome click so group rhythm never faltered. By Monday dawn, 500 Star Carry umbrellas waited in crates. They struck at morning rush. Teams fanned across Megacity 27, distributing units free to anyone who admitted missing somewhere. People always did. LEDs ignited. From above, aerial traffic cameras recorded hundreds of tiny constellations drifting between office towers, each a moving zone of sanctuary releasing gentle vapor. Social feeds erupted. Skyfire orbs offer free therapy. Users posted before and after heart rate graphs from their wearables. A rideshare company requested bulk orders to calm passengers stuck in traffic. Regulators scrambled. But by the time cease and desist notices dispatched, 15,000 umbrellas had replicated. Digital schematics proliferated on open source forums. Makers worldwide printed their own diffuser rings, customizing scents. New Delhi spiced chai monsoon. New Orleans offered beignet rain. Homesickness, once invisible, had become a public festival. Facing impossibility of recall and overwhelming citizen approval, crime rates dipped, cafe sales soared, hospital anxiety incidents dropped. The department negotiated. They proposed a partnership, certified production standards in exchange for citywide legalization, and a modest licensing fee poured into migrant support programs. Haru and Seiya, weary and exhilarated, accepted. On the anniversary of Umbrella No. 6, Megacity 27 held the first Weather of Home celebration. The device complied with gentle drizzle. From elevated plazas to alleyway ramen stalls, umbrellas bloomed, crimson, jade, cobalt, each shining its own portable sanctuary. The air tangled with 1,000 overlapping childhoods, dried kelp and caramel popcorn, mountain moss and summer diesel from countryside tractors, chalk dust from chalkboards erased decades ago. In Blossom Square's center stood a sculpture, an open canopy cast in bronze, inscription reading, "Carry the sky, and the sky will carry you." Beside it, Haru adjusted the collar of his now rumpled but beloved windbreaker. Seiya approached, Seiya strapped across her back like a sibling. "Ready?" she asked. "To get rained on?" "Always." She nodded to the horizon where thunder grumbled. "Smells like petrichor and lawsuits." "Smells like progress," Haru replied, and opened an umbrella whose fragrance blended cedar hearth smoke with a new note coffee bean and resin, the scent of late nights building possibility. He offered the canopy edge to Seiya. She stepped beneath, their shoulders brushing, and together they looked out at the city littered with stars, each citizen carrying a pocket universe of memory through the modern rain. Far above, clouds parted just enough for a sliver of shy moonlight. It touched the umbrellas and the rain and the faces uplifted under them, turning Megacity 27 into a shimmering archipelago of intimate skies, where no one's past had to be left behind and every forward step smelled faintly, comfortingly like home.